South Korean ex-president Yoon has been handed a life sentence over his short-lived martial law decree in December 2024. Now, for more on that, we're joined by Dr. Edward Howell, lecturer in international relations at the University of Oxford. A warm welcome to the show, Dr. Howell. First, I wanted to ask about the court stopping short of imposing the death penalty. What message is the judiciary sending with a life sentence versus the death penalty?
Thank you very much. Well, even a life sentence is a rather extreme decision being taken here. I think the South Korean, well, the Seoul court that made this decision wants to send a clear message that martial law in democratic South Korea, for this was the first time since South Korea transitioned to a democracy in 1987 that martial law was imposed, is not acceptable. I think we need to bear in mind, though, that there is a precedent for this. Every South Korean president hitherto convicted and given either the death sentence or life's imprisonment has had the respective sentence reduced to, say, 2 to 5 years in prison and eventually pardoned. I mean, a couple of examples, Chun Do-hwan and Notae-woo, for instance. So it is not unlikely that President Yoon, further down the line, seeks to appeal this decision and faces a similar outcome.
And as you pointed out, there are indeed expectations that Yoon's lawyers could very well appeal. Realistically, what is the system or history shown us about how long that appeal process could take? As you know, there are many in South Korea that want to see the back of this period of political turmoil.
Yes, history has shown that these processes can take quite a long time. And we even know that when the Supreme Court is involved, things take even longer. I think we need to bear in mind that one of the questions at the moment is whether, if Yoon were to request a presidential pardon, President Lee Jae-myung would grant him one. This has not been ruled out in terms of history, but I think we also need to bear in mind that President Lee Jae-myung does not like Yoon at all. Yoon defeated Lee in the 2022 presidential election, but Lee Jae-myung has said very provocatively in the last few months that anyone who instigates a coup should be viewed akin to a war criminal. So the current situation of domestic politics is also going to be affecting further decisions with respect to Yoon's outcome.
I wonder if you would see the case as being larger than just one individual, but, you know, the extent to which state institutions played a role and a sense of accountability and stability.
Yes, so obviously essential to any democracy is that the leaders are accountable for their actions. I think we know that this was not just Yoon. He was a key player, but as we've seen from the outcomes of the verdicts earlier today, his former defense minister was given a sentence in prison of 30 years as well. His former prime minister, Han Duck-soo, also given a sentence. Well, already, I mean, he's already in serving the sentence. I think we need to remember that South Korea is a very resilient and vibrant democracy, and that this incident on 3rd of December 2024, the declaration of martial law, actually highlights that democracy is working. Yoon declared martial law, it was voted down by the National Assembly, and due process was followed. And I think we should not be naive in saying that democracy in South Korea is fragile. No, it's resilient, it's vibrant, but there are still lots of problems ahead, and political polarization is not going away quickly.
I like that point that you bring up, that it shows democracy working. But from an optics perspective, from a geopolitical perspective, you know, could this domestic turmoil weaken Seoul's diplomatic standing? And what might its allies like the United States be thinking?
I think that South Korea needs to step up and strengthen its relationship with the United States, and particularly given an increasingly threatening China, Russia, and North Korea, and all the three actors working together. China and North Korea clearly intent on undermining South Korea and undermining the US's relationship with it. I think that South Korea and the US are on good terms. We've seen this with the current president, Lee Jae-myung, and President Trump. And now I think it's in South Korea's own interest to strengthen its ties not only with the US, but with Japan. And this is where President Yoon was very good. His foreign policy actually was very well received outside of South Korea.
If we were to look ahead, how might this outcome influence future presidential behavior in South Korea, deterring perhaps future leaders from aggressive use of their executive powers or, deepening distrust in the judiciary?
Yes, I think we'll have to wait and see. I mean, one of the reasons on the part of Yoon's detractors is, and calling for his prosecution, is that they want to make sure that this never happens again in the future. Obviously, we cannot predict into the future, and we need to wait and see. I think public trust in South Korean authorities and the South Korean government very much a function of who is in power, but also domestic policies, particularly in relation to the South Korean economy, but also in relation to South Korea's foreign policies. We also need to bear in mind that even within the current South Korean government, the left-wing Democratic Party, there is factionalism and there is division. And this is something we should pay particular attention to moving forward.
So, as you say, we should pay attention to all these dynamic situations. So how might that impact and play out in the next general election cycle and political party realignments?
Yes, I mean, South Korea's had a history of new parties emerging, parties merging, older parties disbanding, parties changing their names. We have the two main left and right factions, the PPP, Yoon's party, and the DP, the ruling party, the left-leaning party. But obviously, there is a lot of division within each party, and these divisions are within the current Progressive Party in two main areas. First, towards policy vis-a-vis North Korea, and second, towards South Korea's relationship with the US and how it balances that with China. And I think moving forward, these are some of the areas to pay attention to.
Well, fascinating talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Edward Howe, lecturer in international relations at the University of Oxford.